The worst people that exist in this world are predators, murderers, anyone who's pro war, the singular dudes who vote no on obvious unanimous Hall of Famers. Am I missing anything else? Oh, right, Ellen DeGeneres. But yeah, the Hall of Fame voting just took place for the class of 2025, and apparently this year's ballot was said to be the weakest since the early 2000s, which, I mean, look at next year's. There's a good chance nobody gets in. But anyway, this year's ballot featured especially one, but really two slam dunk Hall of Famers, Ichiro Suzuki and CC Sabathia. Both rookies on the ballot, and that's all they'll be, becoming first ballot Hall of Famers. CC Sabathia got 86% of the vote, which for those not aware, you need 75% of the vote to be inducted. Billy Wagner was the third guy to make it, and it's the complete opposite situation of Ichiro and CC. It was his 10th and final year on the ballot, which I find dumb and cruel by the writers. Why wait 10 years? Okay, maybe he's not first ballot worthy, but why wait until the last minute? He should have been voted in 5 years ago. But anyway, good for him. It was a very emotional moment with him and his wife as he got the call from Cooperstown. He finally makes it. Good for him. I'm happy for him and his family. And as far as CC goes, before I get into the biggest travesty of this ballot voting, I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, but he's someone I'll always respect. I mean, this is a dude who needed one more inning to get a $500,000 bonus as part of his contract in 2018 and decided to sacrifice that by hitting a Rays player knowing he'd get ejected just so he can stand up for his teammate who was thrown at earlier. And he quite literally threw until he couldn't anymore. It was sad in the moment when CC had to leave a playoff game against Houston, his last game ever, but looking back, that's as badass as it gets. Man went out with pride, never giving up until his body literally forced him to. Forget all the success and accolades, that stuff alone is why I'll always respect a guy like CC Sabathia. And it's safe to say he was fired up about the election, even joking that everything came full circle with Ichiro, who he can enter the Hall of Fame with after he stole the Rookie of the Year award from him in 2001. And then speaking of Ichiro, yeah, we gotta talk. Really quick, as always, if you're part of the 53% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button if you enjoy the videos, as Ichiro Suzuki was an obvious Hall of Famer. The only question was if he could be a unanimous one, which seemed realistic, and it was, until one idiot decided to vote no. Of the 494 voters, 493 said yes. That's 99.7% of the vote. It really is insane just how, I don't know, arrogant, egotistical some of these people can be. Whoever said no isn't that dumb. There's no way. No way he genuinely believed Ichiro wasn't Hall worthy. It's all unanimous, so unless the dude comes out and admits who he is, we won't know who he is. I just don't understand the point of even doing this. To secretly know you're the only person to vote no and everyone else said yes? Does that make you feel important? It's just so beyond disrespectful to someone so beloved, respected, and obviously a Hall of Famer. And this isn't the first time this has happened either. Derek Jeter was a vote shy of being a unanimous Hall of Famer 5 years ago, and to this day, we don't even have full confirmation on who he was. It's largely believed to be Nick Canepa of the San Diego Tribune because he wrote a column saying he left his 2020 and 2021 Hall of Fame ballots blank. And after that came out, someone apparently asked why he didn't vote for Jeter in 2020, to which Canepa responded, Derek Jeter isn't up for the Hall yet. He's a Hall of Famer first ballot, but he has to be out 5 years. I'm sorry, what? So he by accident didn't realize Jeter was on the ballot? Is he that slow? So in the case of Nick Canepa, who is believed to be the guy because of this, maybe he's so embarrassed as to why exactly he didn't vote Jeter and he'll never admit it. But in the case of Ichiro, is it the same thing? That'd be nuts. All we can do is speculate, but at the end of the day, it doesn't truly matter. Derek Jeter is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and so is Ichiro Suzuki, and it's not very hard to see why. Now, I definitely like some advanced nerdy stats, for sure, but in the case of Ichiro, throw all that bullshit out the window. It doesn't matter for players like him. He got over 3,000 hits in his career, a batting average over 300, won Rookie of the Year, an MVP award both in the same year, was named an All-Star his first 10 seasons, won 10 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Slugger awards, and the craziest part of all this is how durable he was, how many hits he got, how much he was able to accomplish despite starting his big league career so late. Ichiro played in Japan until he was 27, yet Ichiro still churned out over 3,000 hits and played almost 20 seasons into his mid-40s. Unbelievable. And in one of the most wholesome moments, Ichiro got his Hall of Fame announcement publicly by another former Mariner, his former teammate, and also a first ballot Hall of Famer, Ken Griffey Jr. And after he welcomed Ichiro to the Hall, Ichiro said, "Thanks, George," and I just learned this when it happened, Ken Griffey Jr.'s legal first name is George. Ichiro just decided to call him that randomly.
I can't wait to see you. Just from one thing, you're bringing the sake because that's what the rookies have to do. You're now a rookie for the first time in 25 years. So I expect the a nice bottle of sake for both of us.
George, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's so random, but it fits Ichiro so well. He's always been such a funny, witty guy. He has some of the best quotes of any person, like ever. Once, when asked about going to Cleveland on a road trip, Ichiro's response was, "To tell the truth, I'm not excited to go to Cleveland, but we have to. If I ever saw myself saying I'm excited going to Cleveland, I'd punch myself in the face because I'm lying." I know that may sound like something I made up, but he legit said that. I'm not joking. Here's a great story. In 2000, Mike Sweeney, father of Sydney, was part of the MLB All-Star team that went to Japan to play in the Goodwill Series against the Japanese All-Stars. Ichiro didn't play because he was preparing to sign with Seattle. Everyone knew about him though, and his hype, and while they were in Japan, every time an American player got a base hit during the game, you'd hear the term "nice batting" in a Japanese accent over the speaker system, and it would say on the Jumbotron, "nice batting." Well, Sweeney thought, wow, that's a kind, common gesture. So skip ahead to 2001. It's the first few weeks of the season, and Sweeney and his Royals are playing against the Mariners. Ichiro, of course, hits a line shot of the shortstop's head for a single. Sweeney didn't know any Japanese, obviously, but remembering what it was like in Japan, he turned to Ichiro, and in Sweeney's best imitation of what he heard in Japan, he said, "Ichiro, nice batting." Ichiro looks at Sweeney, a man he's never met before, and goes, "Mike Sweeney, nice ass." His accent was apparently perfect when he said it too. Like, his English was on point. I mean, you can't beat Ichiro, man. You just can't. Oh, and no, Mike Sweeney isn't Sidney Sweeney's father. I just wanted to see how long you'd freak out over that fake fact. But yeah, Ichiro is a Hall of Fame player and person. Now think for a second how well Mariners fans used to have it. Griffey and then soon after that, Ichiro among all the other good players they've had. Now Griffey and Ichiro were only teammates for Griffey's final couple years of his entire career, which seems like a missed opportunity. They weren't together sooner. But the Mariners also didn't make the postseason again after Ichiro's rookie year, which was historic in a lot of ways. He arrived, won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same year. The Mariners won 116 games, so as a team they were historic, and then proceeded to miss the playoffs for over 20 years. I mean, Ichiro is always awesome, but the Mariners just not so much, and it remains that way, unfortunately. The Yankees and Marlins ended up having him for a little bit at a time, but the Marlins definitely did not deserve him, especially with the whole way they treated his 3,000 hit situation. And this is a personal story. So me and my dad were actually going to be at what would have been Ichiro's 3,000th hit game if he did it in Miami. During his run to 3,000, the Marlins were promoting it a lot, and that alone was actually getting a good amount of people to the ballpark because they wanted to see Ichiro in the middle of his run for 3,000 and eventually 3,000 itself. So the literal day before the Marlins were back home for a homestand, they were in Colorado for the last day of the team's road trip, and Ichiro was at 2,999 hits. The Marlins were way out of any playoff position at this point. That wasn't even remotely a conversation. Yet, for some reason, and I'll always find it so wild and maddening that they did this, they played Ichiro on the final game of this road trip with the chance to get 3,000 instead of sitting him until the team was home. Now, I get it. All the people at that game in Colorado ended up seeing great history, good for them. But you know how many tickets the Marlins could have sold for the last place team that they were to have Ichiro get his 3,000th hit there? I'll never forget how upset I was that the Marlins did that and robbed the chance of him doing it at home where I would have been able to see it. So from a personal standpoint, that was annoying, but the Marlins themselves screwed up because they had such a rare, cool opportunity on their hands to take advantage of and couldn't even do that right. So typical. And one of the endless examples of how the Marlins can't get anything right as a franchise, not even the most simple things. And ironically, it's widely known that the two championships Miami won early on in the franchise's history were basically on accident before trading everybody away the next year after each one and then becoming irrelevant again. And they haven't been relevant really at all since their last championship over 20 years ago. Yeah, the Marlins did not deserve Ichiro. But what fortunately remains is the greatness of Ichiro Suzuki. Congratulations to him, and yeah, whoever left him off should reveal why exactly they did such a thing. Just very ridiculous and, like I said, disrespectful. But also, like I said, in the end, it doesn't matter. Ichiro is further cemented into baseball history as a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it shouldn't be any other way. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching.